Hello and welcome to another episode of Promethean Leaders. Today we are joined by John, who founded F28 Studio, a firm dedicated to transforming financial chaos into strategic clarity for founders and CEOs. And with F28, John specializes in aligning financial insight with business growth to support rapid scaling and decision making. His expertise span building a founder's brand with while crafting a resilient company identity. In this conversation, we will be exploring how John built his company and as a fractional CFO and how he built his own brand plus the company identity of his F28. And then we'll try to understand how other companies and other startups can use those techniques and tools to basically elevate their own brand. Hi, John. How you doing?
Samad, good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Thank you, John, for joining us and basically giving us your time to
No problem.
go through this kind of thing. Okay, so as we have already introduced the topic for today, so I just want to directly get into it if you're okay with it.
Sure. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So how about John? We go first start with why you started F28. What was the vision behind it? Like,
Right.
what's the story?
Starting F28 was more of a personal reason more than anything else. Um, I think my career spans 20 something years. I started in accounting and finance, spent 15 years in the mining industry. So working with gold, silver, copper, natural resources companies. From there, I spent 5 years in the technology space, working with different startups in Vancouver. And then I spent 4 years in the healthcare space. So working with a healthcare company that's focused on psychedelic therapies. Uh, Built it from the ground up with the founder from zero. We went public. We raised a bunch of money. We did a few acquisitions, and that was a really great learning for me. But as a lot of startup founders or people working in startup companies know, there's no rest. You're working
Hmm.
12, 13-hour days, just trying to build this company. And I think at that stage in my career and in my life, that got a bit too much. We built that company in 2019, right before COVID, so a lot of things happened, and I just had to reflect and take a look and see how much time and energy am I spending on building the startup, and what am I neglecting in my life? I have a family, I have 2 kids, and so forth, and building Numinous was hard on them because I hardly got to see them. So, I made the decision to leave the company in 2023. I took some time off and just to recover from burnout and just to try to get a clearer mind of what I want to do next in my life. And after I took some time away, I came back in thinking about what I wanted to do. I had a couple of conversations with companies trying to be their full-time CFO. It just didn't feel right with me. It doesn't resonate with me. Nothing wrong with the companies or anything, but just knowing the scope of work that a CFO does, um, and how much time I want to dedicate to that company, it just didn't feel right. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna start my own company, a fractional CFO company, and see where it goes. So again, there was no strategic reason why. It was just more of a personal reason. I just needed more balance in my life and to work on things that I really want to work on.
So we're just trying to find a way to basically do something you like, plus also balance your life, work-life balance kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at a scope of a CFO's role, it's like this. And I probably only loved 20% of it. The other 80% is just part of the job that I had to do. And for me, again, at this stage of my life, I'd rather focus my energy on the 20% of the things that I really love doing, and then helping companies solve that 20% of the problem.
I see. So now you're running F28
Yeah.
as a fractional CFO. So
Yeah.
you're basically CEO, CFO, marketing chief, and everything together. So how, like, you wanted to cut it down, right? You wanted to cut it down. So you were like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So then you ended up taking so many different roles.
Right, but those are the interesting things that I really enjoy doing. I think from, like you said, if I put on like a marketing hat, it's the creative side of things that I enjoy about it. And how do I craft a narrative and story about either my services or whatnot. I It's funny when you say, a CEO. I don't think of myself as a CEO, even though I have my own company. It's just, it's just me. So, I think that I never really thought about. I mean, I'll have to think about that. But in terms of, being, I guess, a solopreneur, yeah, I'm juggling a lot of these different things, but it's things that I enjoy doing and it's for me. And I don't have a board or anyone that tells me which direction I need to go to and so forth. So I think that has been that freedom of creativity is great.
So before we get further into our conversation, just for the listener, I want to ask you, what is fractional CFO?
What is a fractional CFO? So, fractional CFO really focuses on the strategic finance element of a business, which means making sure that the company is on a profitable growth path. Um, Meaning it's really focused on the high value things. It's not really getting into the weeds of a company's financials. Yes, I that might be part of the job, but my ideal client would be someone that already has a finance function in place. Probably have a few finance people and accounting people to do the day-to-day type thing, but what they're missing is the strategic forward thinking finance leader to help the CEO and help the founders craft what that strategic direction can be based on affordability, profitability, and so forth.
So basically helping company decide the next step and how to approach their vision and goal.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. Whether it's self-funding or whether it's doing M&A opportunities or fundraising.
I see. So nothing of those daily boring tasks where you have to punch the numbers in or make sure the payrolls are working or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, not none of that. I mean, that's for the team to do, and frankly, I don't think a company would want to pay someone like me to do those types of tasks.
Yeah, like I don't think it would be beneficial for a company to pay $200. I don't know how much fractional CFO is getting paid,
Yeah,
but just as example, like $200 an hour for someone to process a payroll of another person,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly,
Yeah, like basically
exactly,
people want to, CEOs and companies want to focus on how they can actually achieve their goals and go to the next milestones.
exactly,
All right. Yeah.
exactly.
So since you started building your own brand and the company brand, so now in the market, what I'm seeing is the founders and CEOs and found basically they have their own personal brand, and
Right,
then they have company, and company identity is different. In like 5-10 years ago, it was basically the same. CEO and company was like one identity,
right.
and it's basically like, for example, if you talk about Steve Jobs and Apple,
Hmm.
like it was synonymous. Like if you call it Steve Jobs, it's Apple, same thing.
Yeah.
Like no one was like distinguishing two different brands. But now, even if you look at Elon Musk,
Hmm.
he himself is a different brand. Him, like, he owns Twitter, like X now,
Yeah.
SpaceX, and then Tesla. But no one calls him like, oh, Tesla is Elon Musk. It's basically he has his own separate brand identity, and then
Right.
all the company that he runs, that has his own identity.
Right.
Yeah. So how are you building that, or how did you start or strategize on that?
I mean, for me, I never, when I created F28, um, I wanted to just create something very simple, very clean, because I know that as a fractional CFO, people are not going to resonate with my brand. They're going to resonate with me because they're hiring me personally.
Mhm.
So for me, in the beginning, I think F28, I I just did the bare minimum that I wanted to do as you know the company brand. But if you get a chance to read my LinkedIn posts and so forth, I don't really write as I'm F28. I write as myself. So if you had to, for me at least, if you had to focus between company brand and personal brand,
Yeah.
I'm building my personal brand, but F28 it tags along with
Hmm.
that. Um, at some point in time, if 28 becomes bigger, or if there's product offshoots coming out of that, then I think that's where the brand would come in to play. But right now, because it's just services, it's really
Yeah.
just me. Now, at some point, if F28 gets bigger, if I need to hire employees and so forth, then I'll probably start focusing on building a better unique brand of F28.
I see, that makes more sense, because since you are offering services as a fractional CFO,
Yeah,
whoever is hiring you, they are not hiring F28, they are hiring John.
exactly.
They are having a conversation with John. They want to know how John can help them rather than F28. Like, as I said, like when the company has its own brand identity and we are like, oh, we are working with Deloitte and we are working with
Yeah,
KPMG, no one is talking about which accountant or which executive accountant manager or something like that is helping with their accounts.
yeah,
No one is talking about that. Even though, like, if I go to KPMG and I'm like, oh yeah, I just want to file my taxes. Let's,
yeah,
as an example, let's say, and they do that, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I work with this XYZ person. I'm gonna be like, I work with KPMG and they do my
exactly,
taxes, like that,
exactly.
basically.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So it's like in the fractional CFO, what I'm understanding is that people are basically talking to you as a brand, you yourself, and they want to make sure that, like, you are able to help them rather than the company itself. And your goal is to basically, when the company or the services and clientele grows to a point where
Hmm.
you have to separate yourself, in a sense, like you won't be servicing all the clients yourself directly, maybe you will
Yeah,
have a team member or someone else, then you will create a brand identity of a company in a way that helps client distinguish you and the company.
yeah, exactly. And I think, when you look at what the company does, I think that can differentiate it as well. If your company is a services company in the beginning, then it's just me, right? But if it's a product company, then you probably want the product to stand on its own. And I think that's maybe that is a differentiator between personal brand and company brand if you have a product.
I see. Yeah, that's a very good example. Like, product businesses are very different. They want to create a product identity in itself, and
Yeah.
then we get into the conversation of product identity and product brand, and then the company itself that's selling that brand. Because, like, if multinational company like P&G, they have
Mhm.
several product brand underneath it. Like, Tide itself is another brand, and no, not many people know that it's owned by P&G. If I'm
Yeah.
not wrong, it is owned by PNG. Yeah, probably. At this
Yeah.
everything is owned by PNG. But yeah, so like people go there and they're like, oh yeah, I use Tide, but they don't know that, like, Tide and
Yeah.
Gain both are owned by PNG,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean,
right?
that's like a totally different thing as well. But again, like focused on the product, when people think of, I don't know, like Starbucks, you know, like most people would think of Starbucks as just Starbucks coffee, right? But I guess for business people, they might also relate to Howard Schultz, who was the, Starbucks CEO for like the longest time.
Yeah. So I guess in that sense, brand plays a very strong role in any companies or any business's journey,
Yeah.
because people either relates to you as a brand or either the company as a brand. You
Mhm.
gave a really good example of Starbucks. Now, Starbucks itself is a very huge brand, and people. I'm not sure, like, people actually go to Starbucks because they serve the most amazing coffee or anything.
Yeah.
Because Honestly speaking, most people I don't think can even tell which coffee they're drinking, or like what's the different
I'm
taste.
I am not a Starbucks I'm not a Starbucks coffee drinker, but I know a lot of people that really love it. So again, I think you're targeting those people that love your product.
Yeah, I know. Like I've heard of several experiments where they would buy like a very cheap wines and then like tell people testers that like, oh, this one is a very expensive bottle of wine, costs this much, and then the people are like talking about, oh, this one tastes
Right.
amazing and all that, and then the same wine they tell it like this is just $5 wine, and
Yeah,
then we're like, yeah, it's not that good, but like it's just same wine. It's
right,
just the
exactly.
perspective that it creates in people's head that, oh, if it's expensive,
Yeah,
then it's probably good.
right. Yes. Yes. I mean, thinking on that thread, how you talk about your brand. I think that's important for me on my F28 website. I try to make sure that, the language and stuff that I use is
Hmm.
based on what is the outcome that I would want uh, people that work with me to feel. And, when you look at my website, I have sort of a very simple diagram, like a really messy lines and
Yeah.
circle, and then one that's like really clear circles. So, before people work with me, things are a mess. They don't have trust in numbers and so forth. And after they work with me, there's like calm and clarity. Um, so, I'm trying to focus that as like a brand for F28. Um, whether, the design and all that, that's very basic as well. But
Mm.
that's how, I guess for F28, that's how I'm trying to craft brand there. It is around calm, calm and clear headedness.
Yeah, no, I get that. I did look at your website. And it's pretty nice and clean. And it's very the message is clear. It's not playing around the bushes. It's not like talking about some things or try to confuse. Like I've seen many websites, then the message is not very clear, and the customer is like, "Where is the buy button?"
Right.
Like
Yeah.
what are
And
you selling in the end?
yeah,
So.
and for me, before, going through, I did kind of like a little brand exercise. And what I did was that I looked at, I did a Google search on fractional CFOs. I just want to see how other fractional CFOs are talking about themselves on their websites.
Mhm.
And I found that it was all very similar. And it's kind of like they're an accounting firm, but they're not using accounting firm, like they're not selling themselves as an accounting firm. They're selling themselves as like a full a full service fractional CFO, which basically is an accounting firm. So I
Mhm.
wanted to get away from that because that's not what I do. I don't do financial statements. I don't do bookkeeping. I don't do taxes. So
So
so I was quite deliberate in not using that language.
yeah. So let's talk about if let's say a company engages with you.
Yeah.
What kind of services like we already talked about what you offer, like, but let's say a company comes to you with some
Mhm.
kind of problem, how you usually approach it, what kind of usually problems that they come to you, like let's understand that part and how you actually help
Right.
them solve it and what's the outcome. Like you said like you're outcome focused, right?
Yes.
So how do you achieve those outcomes for the companies?
Right. So, usually, the company would describe what their issues are. Let's just say that, they don't trust the numbers. They don't know what's going on in their finances. Their finance team is lacking this leadership. What do I do? So I try to break off my engagement into two phases. One, I'll do a discovery, which can last, it depending on the size of the company, it'll last for maybe a couple weeks. And I do a deep dive into their financial operations, take a look at their financials, their tech stack, talk with leaders within the company, and also, talk with the accounting team. And that sort of gets me under hood to see exactly what the problem is. Once I have a good understanding of what that is, then I'll provide them with recommendations. Some could be low hanging fruit, which it could be easily solved, uh, and some are a little bit longer play. So I'll present that to the CEO or founder and say, here are all the things that you need to fix. And usually they have a sense of what those are, but for the CEO, They just want an independent third party to come in to validate if what they're thinking is true. And I would say 90% of the time, it aligns to what they're thinking. So the next phase of the engagement is for me to come in and start implementing those changes, working with their accounting team to clean up the books and clean up financials, um, providing strategic finance advisory for the CEO and the leadership team, and just to help them steady the ship from a financial standpoint. And once that happens, then it depends on what other needs are from the company. But I would say, basically is how do I make the CEO have confidence and feel trust and safety in the numbers?
I see. So it's uh, it's very extensive in that sense. It's about like
It
basically
is.
helping the team make sure that they're heading in the right direction.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of work going in, even though like you're not playing with the numbers, you're not trying to take care of all their financial and do a deep dive audit of like every single number there. They are
Hmm.
basically focusing on the problem they come to you with, not everything else.
Yes, exactly. Now, there might be instances where when I review the financials, something just doesn't make sense, and then we can dive into that. But yeah, overall, you hit the nail on the head. Is just trying to solve their high level problems, and then work your way down.
I see. So if I may ask you, how did you approach your first customer as a F28? So
Right.
was it like referral, or like you had to go out and market yourself? Because like I imagine you're starting a new company, new brand, and you want to
Yeah.
get customers. Once you have established brand, then people come to you. But
Yeah.
before that, you have to go to people.
Yes. So I think what really helped was when I left my full-time CFO job, I had this urge to share my experiences. So, what I did was, my on my last day at Numinous, I wrote a LinkedIn post like everyone else does when they leave their job or they start a job. So I wrote a post and I wrote, this is my last day at Numinous and so forth. And then from then on, I wrote something once a week about my experiences at Numinous, my experience as a CFO, as a parent and husband, and how all those things intersect. And I wrote that like every week, like very consistent. And and after 6 months, when I did launch my company F28, what all that writing before did was it helped me build trust with an audience. And when I launched F28, I wrote on LinkedIn, and I got so many DMs and messages and so forth saying, "Hey, John, congratulations. You should talk to this person." Or you should talk to that person. I had people reached out that I haven't talked to for like 7 years and say, hey, I know someone that's has a startup and they're looking for a fractional CFO. So it's like you said, how did I get my first customers? Is all through referral, but because I had put in the work way ahead of time to build an audience, to build trust, to let people know who I am, what I did. I think that really helped.
Yeah, I think you are bringing up a very important point. That I think that's the whole reason with every single product or service company. You go on their web page, you scroll down, and there's reviews and testimonials there. It's
Yeah.
all about like basically telling you that they are legit, they are good at what they do, and they have satisfied customers. And then we see company investing so much marketing dollars into referrals,
Hmm.
like basically giving rewards to customer for referring their friends and all that. And because once like I, if my personal experience, I have used many of the services because of the referral. I
Yeah.
would just ask my friend like, "Hey, I'm looking for this. Who should I
Hmm.
be talking to?" And they would refer me to someone, and I would like basically I would not shop around, and I would not be like wasting my time and talking to people. And be like comparing the quotation or them. I'm like, okay, I trust my friend.
Yeah.
He's like giving a good recommendation. He's talked about his experience, so why not?
Yeah, and I mean, especially I said off the top, trust within finances is so important. And everyone, not everyone, like a lot of people would ask, hey, do you know a good accountant? Do you know a good tax person? It's really driven by referrals. So which is why I don't even I don't even spend money on Google ads or whatnot, because again, I want to make sure that I continue to try to build an audience and build trust with the people within my network.
Yeah, I think there are some profession that people trust refer more than anything else. Like no one wants to take a chance with a lawyer and doctor and the
Yeah.
CFO.
Yes. Plumbers, electricians.
Yeah, those jobs too, but like, yeah, simple as that. Like
Yeah.
no one want to take a chance with like, oh, you are a first time doctor, oh, this is your first surgery, thank you for letting me know before going into the surgery. Like I don't think any doctor comes to the patient and like, thank you for coming in for the surgery today, you are
Yeah.
making me do my first surgery.
Yes.
It's like kind of like a ribbon cutting ceremony for me. Like no one's gonna do that, like, right? Like that's the trust part, right?
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, talking about personal brand, um, I think it's really important that if you're a founder, a CEO, or even just, like even if you're just like an accountant, it's, like personal brand is currency. If you want, especially in this really tough job market, how do you stand out from, the hundreds of people that are applying for the same job?
Yeah.
If you Yeah, if you can build a personal, and sometimes people um can get scared about the word personal brand, because that means, are you being authentic? Are you, trying to create this fake persona? Um but no, it's just sharing the things that sharing the things that you really enjoy sharing, and it gives people a glimpse of who you are and how you think.
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. Like, I would, if you're building a personal brand, it's personal. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Personal brand. It doesn't have to be into your personal life. People do it. People share their personal life. People show everything.
Yeah.
But then there are people who are basically building a personal brand on their professional life.
Right.
And like how I behave in my home is always obviously is gonna be a bit different than how I behave in the office.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna walk into the office in flip flops and shorts and be like, "Hey, how are you doing?" Because like that's
Yeah.
not expected of me, right? That's basically there are office expectation and how to behave in the office. So I'm gonna behave in that way.
Yeah.
That does not mean that I'm not being authentic. I'm
Yeah.
being professional. Being professional is not about like, oh, you are not authentic because how you behave in home is different. Of course, it's gonna be different. It's home. It's
Right.
like no one is coming to see me or anything. I'm just
Right.
being very comfortable in my own environment. That's why it's called
Yeah.
home.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think like it's, and you bring up a really important point is that personal brand pays premium. If you have
Yeah.
built a personal brand, it helps you with job hunting if you're hunting job, because then if you hire someone, like let's just be honest, if you plan to hire someone, you're probably going to go on Google and type their name, see their social media. Even though it's just social media, you want to see what kind of person that is, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Exactly.
see that, okay, this person actually has some kind of brand identity and they do something for the community, they are like, if you find a lot more positive indication that this person is actually legit and they know what they're doing, you would feel more
Yeah.
comfortable hiring that person, because they are like, okay, yeah, there is evidence already out there, so I
Yeah.
can be a bit sure that they can do what they're saying in their resume that they can do or they have done.
Yeah.
But if there is
Exactly.
no evidence out there, then you're gonna be a bit hesitant if someone writes it like, "Oh, I'm from Harvard's, my tongue, Harvard." Even if
Harvard.
someone says like, "I'm from Harvard's,"
Yeah.
then still it does not. We have all watched Suits, okay? Like it's not legit. Like someone can just write it at this point. Like, how are you gonna verify?
Yeah. Yeah. Is true. It's true. Um. Yeah. So I think even even if you just remove the word personal brand, it's I think it's just good to share what you believe in, and whether it's on LinkedIn. I mean, you have to choose the medium that you're comfortable doing. You know, are you a writer? Do you do better on video? Do you do better in just voice? And then choose whichever platform serves best. You know, for me, I enjoy writing. You know, I can't do selfie videos and talk to a camera. So I'm not on, you know, TikTok or anything like that. But, you know, writing is my, like, short form writing is where I enjoy doing. So which is why I write LinkedIn posts.
That's it's very important to understand as well. Like even building a personal brand is not for everyone. Like if you don't feel comfortable, then you don't have to, because then no matter, like, you've shot a video and you're not comfortable putting it out,
Yeah.
then you're never going to be comfortable. Even if it's out there, people are not going to be able to connect with you because they can see that you're not comfortable putting it out.
Yeah.
That creates a barrier, an invisible barrier that prevents people from engaging with you.
Right.
So that's also not good for brand itself. You have to first get a little bit comfortable, and then if you're putting anything online, you have to basically be strong about criticism. Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if people really watch your video or you read your content, people have opinion. You have to
Yeah.
understand that they would never align with you. Okay, there will always be people who have very strong opinion against your opinion, and they
Yeah.
will share it. So you have to be very strong about criticism.
Well, for sure, for sure. I mean, you know, you make a really great point. If you're going to put yourself out there, then yeah, you either expect like no one reads it, or people would not like it, or people would, you know, criticize you. But I guess that's part of the journey.
Yeah,
You know,
I think so.
if your intentions are true, if your intentions are authentic, and what you share is from the heart, you know, you'll probably find people that resonate with what you have to say. And, you know, whether haters come or not, you can't really focus on that.
Yeah, for sure. Like as you said, uh, people sometimes don't even respond. Like if you're starting out, then it's highly likely that no one is going to respond to your post, and then
Yeah.
no response is also a response. You have to think of it as a feedback. You have to
Yep.
improve on it. You have to see why someone didn't respond. Like, are you just creating content, or are you trying to cater to a market? If you're trying to cater to market and audience, then you have to create a content for that audience. If you're
Yeah.
trying to just be out there and have fun and just want to be you kind of thing, then you
Yeah.
should not be worrying about why someone is not responding or anything. But if you're trying to build a brand, your company, then you have to be worried about why someone is not responding.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and like I have seen people, like as I said, like building brand and things are not really for everyone. And I have seen people, big personalities, and they have literally never posted on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I met this guy at Vancouver club, and he is vice president of a international luxury realty.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, let me get you. I was like, I have LinkedIn, but I don't know if where is that. I'm like, what you mean? It's
Right.
like I created LinkedIn very long ago, but I have never posted anything. And I checked it. He actually, it's completely empty. It's just his picture and name. That's it. That's it.
But
But come on, like
yeah.
he does it. It's in realty. It's a real
Yeah.
estate agents, and everyone posts everything about everything. Like on LinkedIn is basically real estate posting going on these days. Everyone is
Right.
showing their listing and everything, right? There's like a
Yeah.
lot of marketing going on. But he's vice president of that company. He does not care.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't need to. He has
Yeah.
it. People already know him.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he's built his personal brand one way, and that way is by just doing the work, meeting people within his circle and expanding that circle.
Exactly. Like
And
that's a really
it's
great example,
yeah,
because he's in luxury realty, and luxury realty is all about knowing certain group of people who can afford that realty,
yeah,
and those people come to you directly. They are not going to be like, oh, let me just go on Google and search this company and like find out. They know, okay, yeah, I know this person. He sells this. I want this. I'll call him. I'm like, hey, I saw this property. Can you just get me that property? Those
yeah,
people are not worried about like, hey, how much is it? Or hey, can you just get the price drop by this percentage? No, they are not talking about those things, and he
right.
knows it. So
Yeah.
he has built a personal brand in a sense of personal relationship with people
Hmm.
who are able to afford and are basically into buying luxury properties.
Yep. Yeah.
So he
So I
doesn't
think
need to.
Yeah, so I think building your personal brand, you really have to know who your target audience is. Like for that person that you use it as an example, his ideal client is not hanging out on LinkedIn. His ideal client is somewhere else.
And he
Whether
knows
it's
that.
hanging out in the Vancouver club or whatnot, whatever that is,
Exactly.
right? And then
Yeah.
so, for me, as I said earlier, my target audience is, or my ideal client is, CEOs and founders, and most of them don't really hang out on LinkedIn. Um, and so my goal is, who's 1 degree away from a CEO that helps inform them to make, people decisions.
Exactly. It's
So
just
so a
like
lot of my uh, audience is people in HR, senior VP people, like, those type of people that has the CEO's ear.
yeah. Yeah, you brought a very amazing point. Like, first of all, building a brand is not just about social media or online. Building a brand basically means you're having an identity in the community and people you're targeting. So it can be offline,
Yep.
and as we have given so many examples, it just have to be catered to your audience. Find where your audience is hanging out,
Hmm.
get the feedback from there, build connections there, and then selling that identity basically.
Yeah.
Because on building identity online is also just about building a network.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's
Yes.
how you are getting business, right? So if
Yeah.
your audience is not on LinkedIn, then you posting on LinkedIn every single day will not yield any kind of results if your audience is not on LinkedIn.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah. So put in the work to understand who your ideal client or your ideal audience is, and then find where they hang out, and then go go there.
Yeah, go there. Like, be then it's like you have to put yourself out there. Once you have found the audience,
Yeah.
your audience, you know that these are the people you are selling to. You have to go there. You have to put yourself out. You have to get the feedback. You have to be not be afraid of criticism and feedback basically.
Hmm.
Because someone if tell you your product is shit, then
Yeah.
you cannot be like, oh, you don't know my product, you haven't used it. You have to be like, okay, if it's shit, why you
Yeah.
think that?
Yeah.
What makes it shit? Because
Yeah.
you have to understand that part.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go ahead and ask question, not become confrontational and not become like aggressive in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone is not liking your product or service, then you have to ask right question that can help you understand why they didn't like it. And yeah,
Yeah.
some people will never like it. Some That means your services are not for them. Then you will find out that these are not your audience. If someone doesn't engage, doesn't like it,
Yeah.
they are not your audience. But if
Yep.
someone comes to you like, okay, I used it, but these are the problems that I'm
Hmm.
having, and like if you improve it, that would be really great. That's your
Yeah.
audience. That person is giving you feedback.
Yeah. So I think, a tip for founders that are listening to this is, fall in love with the problem and don't fall in love with your product, because falling in love with your product feeds ego and
Mm.
defensiveness. But if you're falling in love with the problem, then you're continuously trying to find ways to solve the problem by making your product better to solve that problem.
Oh yeah, I have heard this one a lot more time, and I think it's like we should we should write it down at this point. Because people, like, we all say this. Okay, this
Yeah.
is the thing, we all say this, but
Yeah.
as soon as we start building the product, we all fall in love with the product.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, it's just natural human tendency that you've put so much time and energy into building something. You're
Yeah,
gonna there is an emotional attachment to it.
yeah. And if someone says something bad about that emotional attachment, you become bit like confrontational and aggressive. Like, it's
Yeah,
natural, but like you have to basically take a step back, think about it. Either you are falling in love with the product,
yeah,
or you are in love with your vision where you want to actually take the product. And to take the product to the final destination of that vision,
yeah.
you have to understand why it's not working.
Yes. And, bringing it back to, my fractional CFO work, I think one thing that I'm discovering now about being a fractional CFO is that I work with companies in quite closely in building their company, but because I'm fractional, I'm able to step away,
Hmm.
and when I come back in, I can see things with a clearer set of eyes and outside of the bubble, and then provide better feedback on what do we need to do better and so forth. So I think that's one thing that's really helping me, versus being when you're full-time in a business, you're basically in this bubble. You're just so focused on building the product, building the company within that industry, solving that problem, that when you get feedback from outsiders, you're very protective of things. So yeah, so I'm finding that as a fractional CFO, I can bring in a fresh perspective every time I come back in and with the client.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, as you said, when people are working in a company, they're working in a bubble itself. They create a bubble around themselves, and
Yeah.
they become very protective of that bubble itself. So, like sometime, even if CEO knows, like, okay, yeah, what's the thing they should be doing, they
Hmm.
still need an outside perspective to actually tell them, like, you gotta do it, or
Right.
else, like, it's not gonna go forward, or else you're gonna fail, or else you're not gonna able to achieve the milestone. So
Yeah.
it's like having that outside perspective who does not have an emotional attachment to the product is very important, because
Right.
then they're able to say, like, hey, this product is not working, why not shelf it and think about what your customer need.
Right, right. I mean, I would say, I mean, I do have an emotional attachment to the clients that I work with, but because I can remove myself and come back in with a fresh set of eyes, I can provide that perspective, that what is best for the company, what is best for the product, based on me being able to look at things from 30,000 feet
Hmm.
view outside of the bubble, and then sort of coming back in.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, so I think this is a very good point for us to end our conversation on. Because I think if we keep going, it will take us a really long time to understand the whole scenario and of how this whole bubble thing works.
Yeah.
But we got a gist of it, that you have to basically fall in love with the problem and not the product. And outside perspective can help you understand what's wrong and how to improve on things and get
Yeah.
you to your milestone, the next milestone you are working on. So, John,
Yeah.
before we end our conversation, I do want to ask you if you have any final advice or any word that you want to say to startup founders or new founders.
Um, geez, I look, building a startup is tough. You feel like you're alone in this world. You feel like no one might be able to understand, your journey, what you're going through. But I think there's a lot of great communities out there that can give you the support that you need. And I would say, don't be afraid to engage a fractional person, whether it's CFO or CMO and so forth, because you can't do it alone. And the benefits of having a fractional person is that, you have this person that has done it before and can give you that outside perspective.
Hmm.
So I would say, don't be afraid to just ask for help.
Yeah, it's very important to. You can be a one man army, of course, like, and that's how most of the founders start. Like, okay, you have co-founder and then you are starting your business, but there comes a point where you actually have to think about how to move forward, and for that, engaging with a person who have already done it, with the journey, they have already walked the walk. It can be your mentor, it can be fractional CFO, CMO.
Hmm.
Just help, getting that outside perspective and help is very important, because it's not about, in the end, it's about you achieving your goal. So it
Exactly.
doesn't matter, like, if you think at your current stage, with your current skill or knowledge, you're not able to achieve that goal,
Yeah,
then it's very important for you to actually have that understanding and reach out to people who have it, and then just go toward that goal.
exactly. Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John, for coming on the show and helping us understand fractional CFO and building personal and company brand. So, if anyone would like to get John's services on fractional CFO, please reach out to him and at his website, which is F28 Studios.
Yes.
John, would you like to leave an email address as well if people can reach out to?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at john@johnfong.com or through my website, f28.studio, or you can look me up on LinkedIn as well, John Fong.
All right. Thank you so much, John.
Cool, Samad. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.